The police the same way. They put their club upside your head and then turn around and accuse you of attacking them. Every case of police brutality against a Negro follows the same pattern. They attack you, bust you all upside your mouth, and then take you to court and charge you with assault. What kind of democracy is that? What kind of freedom is that? What kind of social or political system is it when a black man has no voice in court?
He sustains more than 50 baton blows and shocks by a taser gun. Little does he know, his arrest and brutal beating are captured on video. 2 days after the beating, the video is broadcast around the world. Instantly, Rodney King's name becomes a battle cry against injustice. The officer's actions are exposed.
LAPD officer Lawrence Powell, Timothy Wynn, Theodore Brasino, and Sergeant Stacy Kuhn have been indicted for assault with a deadly weapon.
Nearly 3 months into the trial, a hushed courtroom anxiously awaits the verdict.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Stacy C. Kuhn, not guilty.
There are new calls for the FBI to investigate a case that has sparked outrage across the country. A 17-year-old boy, unarmed, gunned down by a neighborhood watch.
This howl and a single gunshot tell the story of a life extinguished. 3 weeks ago, Trayvon Martin stepped out for some Skittles and iced tea. The 17-year-old spotted by neighborhood watch volunteer George Zimmerman, who calls the police.
This guy looks like he's up to no good or he's on drugs or something. They always get away.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
But he does anyway. The unarmed teen is followed. They scuffle.
They're wrestling right in the back of my porch.
There's someone screaming outside.
Zimmerman pulls out his gun and fires. And Trayvon's parents say they know why.
Do you think that Trayvon's fate would have been the same had he been white?
Nope. I don't think he would have even been followed if he was a white kid.
Don't shoot him. Don't shoot him.
It's disturbing video of the shooting of 43-year-old Keith Scott in Charlotte, North Carolina. Cops repeatedly challenge him.
He doesn't have a gun.
Then it happens.
Don't you do it! Did you shoot him? Did you shoot him?
The just-released cell phone video was taken by the dead man's own wife. That's her desperate voice you hear.
These are the police officers that shot my husband, and he better live. He better live.
Now, every frame of the video is being analyzed.
I don't know what is going on in this video that has led these officers to kill Mr. Scott.
My concern is that you can see the officer looks like he's removed something from underneath Mr. Scott's body and then tosses it to the side.
There's one item on the ground, and then you're going to see a flick of a second item that ends up being tossed on the ground. We are, at this point, simply not going to speculate about what those items may be.
And we're talking about an officer in Texas responding to a non-emergency call after a neighbor called a non-emergency line saying that his neighbor left her door open. So naturally, he was a little bit concerned. When the officer in Fort Worth, Texas, arrived to the scene, body cam footage released by the Fort Worth Police Department shows within seconds, he calls out and immediately fires a shot. The woman inside was playing video games with her 8-year-old nephew late at night. When that shot was fired, she was hit through the window of her home there. Tatiana is her name, and everyone is seeing that name on social media. There she is. People are remembering who she was, a scholar, a graduate, and really, really into her studies in the medical field. So, ladies, this story has really, really taken the nation by storm. Once again, a person killed in their own home, again in Texas, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. trial of a North Carolina police officer who shot and killed an unarmed black man looking for help after a car accident. The officer charged with voluntary manslaughter. His lawyers say he was acting in self-defense. And ABC's Mara Scavacampo is here with the story. Good morning, Mara.
George, good morning. The victim, a former college athlete who had moved to the area to be closer to his fiancee.
4 shots in rapid succession when Jonathan is 10 feet away.
During opening statements Monday, prosecutors saying the officer, who is white, used excessive force in shooting the unarmed African-American 24-year-old 10 times.
I want to talk a bit about a teenager named Jordan Edwards, who was murdered by a police officer this weekend in Balch Springs, Texas. There's really no other way to put it. It's a sad story that's developing fast, does not look good for the cops. There you're seeing Jordan Edwards, 15 years old, and the same sort of story that regrettably happens constantly. He was a great student, a great athlete. We want to break down what actually happened because the messaging coming out of the cops has been fairly insane.
While officers were out at the location, they heard gunfire. There was an unknown altercation with the vehicle backing down the road towards officers in an aggressive manner. An officer shot at the vehicle, striking a front seat passenger.
The argument to do so that's often given by police is it was in defense of my life. They were using the vehicle as a weapon. Now, it came out from the people in the car by their lawyer that that's not at all what happened. And it turned out that the police eventually caught up to the truth as well, because just yesterday, this is what the police were saying.
I unintentionally incorrect yesterday when I said the vehicle was backing down the road. In fact, according to the video that I viewed, the vehicle was moving forward as the officers approached. I'm saying after reviewing the video that I don't believe that it met our core values.
We get a little bit more information coming out of the lawyer for the deceased, who said Jordan's older brother was maneuvering out of a parking space near the party when they, quote, heard someone shout profanity at them. The person did not identify himself, but appeared to be a cop and was shining a flashlight at the car. They say that before the driver could respond, the unidentified police officer fired multiple shots at the vehicle.
Was just 22 when his life was cut short by a hail of NYPD bullets. Officials say 41 shots were fired by plainclothes officers outside of his Bronx apartment building back on February 4th, 1999. 19 of those bullets piercing him. On that fateful day, the officers, who were part of a street crimes unit, mistook him for an armed rape suspect. It was one of the first police-involved shootings in New York City that sparked national outrage and conversations about race and police relations. The officers involved were charged with second-degree murder, but were acquitted at trial.
We begin tonight with that jury reaching a verdict in the Port shooting trial. They found Theodore Wafer guilty on all counts in connection to the killing of Renisha McBride.
And that includes second-degree murder, manslaughter, and felony firearm charges. The shooting happening on Wafer's front porch in Dearborn Heights last November.
We have complete Team 7 coverage of the verdict and reaction for you. We'll begin with 7 Action News reporter Kimberly Craig, who was in the courtroom when that verdict was read. Kim?
Theodore Wafer is behind bars, and Renisha McBride's family says that's exactly where he belongs.
Justice needs to be served. You did cold-blood murder. That was murder.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Theodore Wafer, as follows. Count 1, murder in the second degree. Guilty of murder in the second degree.
The 55-year-old Dearborn Heights man did not show any emotion as the jury read their guilty verdicts.
Count 2, manslaughter. Guilty of statutory manslaughter.
Thank you. Thank you. Because the facts prove exactly what happened.
The jury found Theodore Wafer guilty on all counts, guilty of murdering 19-year-old Renisha McBride, who knocked on his doors early one morning in November. Wafer tried to claim self-defense, saying McBride was trying to break into his house. Prosecutors say Wafer was simply mad that his van had been paintballed and he didn't call 911 because he wanted to handle the situation himself.
America's largest police force is facing a serious controversy over a video that's gone viral showing officers arresting a suspect who later died. The video is wrenching, and here's ABC's Ron Claiborne.
In the video, you can see 43-year-old Eric Garner confronted by two plainclothes officers for allegedly peddling illegal cigarettes. The officers move in to arrest him. One of them puts his forearm around Garner's neck. More police join in, pinning him to the ground as he cries out. The father of 6 was rushed to a local hospital where he died. At issue is whether Garner was placed in a chokehold, a tactic banned by New York City police.
Samari Rice's son was shot and killed by police in Cleveland, Ohio, about 4 months after Eric Garner died. Tamir was just 12 years old. Here is a look at what happened. Please be warned, the video you're about to see you may find disturbing. Tamir Rice was just 12 years old when he was shot and killed by police.
And there was a guy there with a pistol, it's probably fake, but he's like pointing it at everybody.
On November 22nd, 2014, someone called 911 to report what they thought could be a person with a gun.
It's probably fake, but you know what? He's scaring the shit out of me.
2 Cleveland police officers responded to the scene.
It's probably a juvenile,
But when they did, they lacked crucial information. According to several reports, the 911 dispatcher failed to tell the responding officers all of what the caller had shared. The gun could be a fake. The person could be a minor. And the situation turned deadly. Watch. A police car pulls up to the scene. At around 3:30 p.m., within seconds of arriving, rookie officer Timothy Lohman takes out his gun and shoots Tamir Rice.
This is an obvious, tragic event. 3 commands were given to show your hands by Officer Lohman as he pulled up to the gazebo there.
Rice died in a hospital the next day. 1 year after Tamir's death, a grand jury considered whether the officers should be prosecuted.
Based on the evidence they heard and the law as it applies to police use of deadly force, the grand jury declined to bring criminal charges against Cleveland police officers Timothy Lohman and Frank Garnbeck.
There is anger here in New York City over police officers firing 50 rounds into a car in Queens. An unarmed man in the early hours of Friday morning was the victim of what appears to be aggressive show of force by police. The man, identified as Sean Bell, was celebrating his bachelor party with friends in a Queens lounge.
The dash cam video shows Officer Slager approaching the car Walter Scott is driving.
Your license registration insurance card?
The 2 men talk.
The reason for the stop is your third brake light's out.
Scott is missing some paperwork, and Officer Slager returns to his squad car.
Let's see the car.
Less than a minute later, Scott gets out of his car and takes off running. But the camera did not capture the fatal shooting, leaving unanswered questions about what led to the deadly confrontation.
But it's that other tape, the one seen around the world of Slager minutes later shooting an unarmed and fleeing Scott in the back, that has turned this into a murder case.
North Charleston police are facing tough questions about their actions after Saturday's shooting. Officer Slager is charged with murder and has not yet entered a plea.
We begin tonight with that chilling piece of video live streamed on Facebook in the moments after a man is shot by police. His girlfriend in the car pulling out her phone and then capturing the moments right after. Her exchange with the police officer, now seen by millions across this country.
Stay with me.
This is Diamond Reynolds streaming live on Facebook from her cell phone, just moments after her boyfriend, Philando Castile, was shot by police during a traffic stop over what she says was a broken taillight. She says Castile told the officer he was carrying a licensed gun.
He's licensed to carry. He was trying to get out his ID and his wallet out his pocket, and he let the officer know that he had a firearm and he was reaching for his wallet. and the officer just shot him in his arm.
The police officer pointing his gun into the car. Reynolds calm and clear. Her young daughter in the back seat.
Waiting for him back. I will, sir. No worries. I will. He just shot his arm off. We got pulled over on Larpener.
I told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand out.
You told him to get his ID, sir, and his driver's license. Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead. Please don't tell me my boyfriend just went like that.
Keep your hands where they are, please.
Yes, I will, sir. I'll keep my hands where they are. Where's my daughter? You got my daughter?
Then officers, guns drawn, order Reynolds out of the car.
Get on your knees. Get on your knees.
Now on the ground, she never stops live streaming.
They threw my phone, Facebook.
Police perform CPR on Castile on the street. Reynolds now detained in a patrol car, her cell phone still recording.
I don't know if he's okay or if he's not okay.
Her daughter still with her. Reynolds finally breaks down.
I can't really do because they got me handcuffed.
It's okay, Mommy.
I can't believe they just did this.
It's okay, I'm right here with you.
Philando Castile, a supervisor at a school cafeteria where kids loved him, was taken to the hospital and died.
Would this have happened if those passengers, the driver and the passenger, were white? I don't think it would have.
The raid video, never publicly released, shows the moments leading up to the death of 7-year-old Ayanna Stanley Jones. Police officer Joseph Weekly is on trial for involuntary manslaughter.
The defense says the movements of Ayanna's grandmother caused Officer Weekly to accidentally pull the trigger.
It's the moment 7-year-old Ayanna Stanley Jones is fatally shot. And not even Officer Joseph Weekly's defense attorney denies it was Weekly who pulled the trigger. Prosecutors say Joseph Weekly was grossly negligent when he pulled the trigger on his submachine gun, killing Ayanna just seconds after entering the house. Weekly's defense is that Ayanna's grandmother caused him to pull the trigger when she somehow hit Weekly's gun.
And we move on into growing outrage after a deadly police shooting. Tonight, the officer's defense for the first time here. Dashcam video showing the father of 4 with his arms up right there, walking back toward his broken down SUV just moments before he was shot and killed. ABC's Clayton Sandell is in Tulsa tonight on the officer and her defense.
Tonight, the Tulsa police officer who killed Terrence Crutcher is telling her side.
This was not something that was done out of hate or anger.
Through her attorney, Officer Betty Shelby says Crutcher ignored her repeated commands in the minutes before these videos begin, saying he appeared to be under the influence of drugs.
She's screaming at him, stop, stop, stop. Yeah. He walks up to the window, faces the SUV, and then looks at her. And then his left hand goes into the car window, and that's when she fired her shot.
But attorneys for Crutcher's family reject that, saying the video shows there's no way he could have reached for anything.
The window was up, so how could he be reaching into the car if the window is up and there's blood on the glass?
We begin tonight with the growing outrage after a deadly police shooting, the images now seen by millions across this country. And tonight, a new video has now emerged. Police officers in Baton Rouge answering a call that a man was allegedly waving a gun. The initial video showing the officers tackling the father of 5, taking him down. Then moments later, firing multiple shots.
Oh!
Tonight, the Justice Department is now on the case as that city now braces for more demonstrations. And we have just heard from the officers for the first time. ABC's Alex Perez is on the scene.
Tonight, new chilling images of that deadly shooting captured on cell phone outside a Baton Rouge convenience store. One officer pinning 37-year-old Alton Sterling to the ground while another kneels on his arm. You can see one officer drawing his weapon. Within seconds, gunfire. Sterling dying there at the scene with gunshot wounds to his chest and back. An officer then pulls something from Sterling's pocket. It was just after midnight Tuesday morning when police got a call about a man selling CDs outside the Triple S Food Mart brandishing a gun.
He pulled a gun on a complainant and told him he couldn't be around there.
Police say Sterling was armed when the officers approached him and that their body cameras dislodged during the altercation.
He might be shot fire.
Abdullah Muflehi, who recorded this video, said Sterling seemed confused about why police approached him.
He was asking him while they were throwing him on top of the car. He was asking him, what did I do wrong?
Sterling was a friend who had sold CDs for 2 years outside his store.
He's never violent or somebody to threaten anybody.
Sterling's family demanding answers, his 15-year-old son Cameron bursting into tears.
The individuals involved in his murder took away a man with children who depended upon their daddy on a daily basis.
The officers involved now on paid administrative leave. Blaine Salamone and Howie Lake telling detectives they used deadly force because they feared for their lives.
Word that there will be no federal charges against Baltimore police officers in the death of Freddie Gray. Gray was arrested in 2015 for having a switchblade, dying after bouncing around in the back of a police van. 6 police officers face state criminal charges, but none have been convicted. And here tonight, ABC senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas.
Tonight, the investigation into the controversial death of Freddie Gray, which sparked angry protests
No justice! No peace!
and riots in Baltimore in 2015, is coming to a close. It appears that none of the 6 officers involved in that fatal transport of Gray to the police station will face criminal charges. Sources telling ABC News that the Justice Department is declining to prosecute. This after the state prosecution fell apart a year ago. That grainy image of Gray, handcuffed before being put in a police van, where he was apparently violently jostled inside, later dying after sustaining a traumatic injury to his spinal column. But there was a mistrial. Then 3 officers were acquitted, and the rest of the state charges were dropped.
Sir, what's going on?
Gunshots in the store.
Gunshots, and a 22-year-old black man, John Crawford, lay dying on the floor of a Walmart in Beaver Creek, Ohio. Shot and killed by a white police officer, as seen here on surveillance video, almost immediately when they approached him. Crawford had been in the store for several minutes, holding a gun and talking on his cell phone. An eyewitness named Ronald Ritchie called 911.
There's a gentleman walking around with a gun in the store.
Is he got it pulled out?
Yeah, he's like pointing at people.
What does he look like?
He's a black male, probably about 6 foot tall.
Police were dispatched to the store, thinking they were headed to an active shooter situation based on the witness who called 911. They didn't know Crawford was holding a toy gun he had picked up in the store. 5 weeks later, the 911 caller told the Guardian newspaper, quote, "At no point did he shoulder the rifle and point it at somebody." Less than 2 months later, the grand jury's decision was announced.
The grand jury deliberated and they returned no indictment. They decided that the police officers, and the police officer in particular that fired the shots, was justified in doing what he did.
There is growing outrage tonight after an unarmed African-American teenager was shot and killed by police in the St. Louis suburb of Ferguson, Missouri. But there are conflicting reports about what led up to the shooting. NBC's John Yang has the details.
On the streets of Ferguson, Missouri, outrage and anger. Protesters of different ages and races demanding answers in the shooting death of 18-year-old Michael Brown at the hands of a policeman. Investigators said at about noon Saturday, the officer, who hasn't been identified, encountered Brown and another man on the street in an apartment complex. There was a struggle and one of the men pushed the officer into his car.
Within the police car, there was a struggle over the officer's weapon. There was at least one shot fired within the car.
The struggle spilled out onto the street where Brown, whom investigators say was not armed, was fatally shot.
Police shot this man for no reason.
Like it had came from this
Piaget Crenshaw, who took the cell phone video, says she saw those shots from her apartment balcony.
He's running this way. He turns his body towards this way, hands in the air, being compliant. He gets shot in his face and chest and goes down and dies.
Witnesses said Brown's body lay in the street for hours. Michael Brown graduated from high school earlier this spring and was to begin college next week.
A man in Florida says all he did was ask a group of teenagers to turn down the volume, but then he says he was forced to defend himself by pulling out a gun and opening fire. There was emotional testimony this weekend in a rare Saturday court session, and ABC's Lindsay Janis has the latest. Lindsay, good morning.
Good morning, Dan and Bianna. It all started 16 months ago on Black Friday when the defendant, Michael Dunn, parked outside of a gas station next to an SUV full of teens playing loud music. He asked them to turn it down. They said they did, but when they turned it back up, now one of them is dead.
According to prosecutors, 17-year-old Jordan Davis, seen here in this exclusive YouTube video, was unarmed when they say he was murdered by 47-year-old Michael Dunn for playing loud music. A detective testifying Saturday he found no weapons inside the parked SUV where Davis and 3 of his friends sat outside a Jacksonville gas station.
Did you see any evidence in any of these locations of weapons?
No, I did not.
Lawyers for Dunn say he was defending himself after he heard threats and saw a gun inside the SUV.
Isn't it true that the music was so loud that the windows and mirrors were vibrating in that SUV?
Yes, sir.
Tevin Thompson testifying when Dunn parked next to them and asked them to turn down their music, they did, but that Davis wanted it turned back up.
What did Jordan Davis say?
That, turn the music back up.
To you or someone else?
He was talking to me.
A minute later, prosecutors say Dunn pulled out a gun and started firing 9 rounds. Then, the boys realizing their friend had been shot.
Was he making any sounds that you could hear?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
Like gasping for air.
In the courtroom, Davis's parents wiping away tears, reliving their nightmare.
Get out of the car now!
Why am I being apprehended? You trying to give me a ticket for your failure?
Get out of the car.
Why am I being apprehended? You just opened my car door. You just opened my car door. So you threatening to drag me out of my own car.
Get out of the car!
And then you
I
gonna
will
stun
light
me?
you up. Get out!
Wow.
Now!
Wow.
Get out of the car!
Really, for a failure to signal. You doing all of this for a
Get
failure
over
to
there.
signal. Right, yeah. Yeah, let's take this to court. Let's do
Go
it.
ahead.
For a failure to signal. Yep, for a failure to signal.
Get off the phone.
On my school.
Get off the phone.
I'm not on the phone. I have a right to record. This is my property. This is my property. Sir?
Put your phone down. Right now.
You doing all of this for a
Get
failure
over
to
there.
signal. You
I
gonna
will
stun
light
me?
you up. Get out!
Wow.
You okay?
I'm waiting on you. This is your job. I'm waiting on you. What do you want me to
Oh,
do?
you seem very irritated.
I am. I really am. Because I feel like this crap is what I'm getting a ticket for. I was getting out of your way. You were speeding up, tailing me. So I move over and you stopped me. So yeah, I am a little irritated, but that doesn't stop you from giving me a ticket. So let's continue.
Are you done?
You asked me what was wrong and I told you.
Okay.
So now I'm done, yeah.
Okay. You mind putting out your cigarette, please? Don't mind.
I'm in my car. Why do I have to put out my cigarette?
Well, you can step on out now.
I don't have to step out of my car.
Step out of the car.
Why am I...
Step out of the car.
No, you don't have the right.
Put your phone down.
Measured in moments,
What's his name? Awesome John. What's his name?
a year can feel like an eternity,
Your people are hurt,
especially a year with so much sorrow,
scared, tired,
so much rage,
distrusting,
so much confusion, so little clarity.
disgusted, and even angry.
September 6th, 2018, a Thursday night. A Dallas police officer finished a 13-hour shift and says she mistakenly parked on the wrong floor, walked down the wrong hall, and went in the wrong apartment. Seeing what she called a silhouette in what she thought was her home, she shot and killed an innocent man in his home.
I'm Amber Geiger. I need to get me. I'm in. Okay, we have help on the way.
September 9th, Sunday night, almost 72 hours after the shooting, the Texas Rangers charged Amber Geiger with manslaughter. She spent 1 hour in jail before bonding out.
She's being treated like a police officer in the United States when they commit a crime. She shouldn't have left that scene without being in handcuffs that day.
Jean's mother said manslaughter was too light of a charge, that there was too little accountability. 18 days after the shooting, Amber Geiger lost her job. Activists kept demanding more than manslaughter. City leaders kept pleading for patience. And on November 30th, a grand jury upped the charge,
Good afternoon, everyone.
indicting Amber Geiger for murder.
I am indeed satisfied with the indictment for murder of Amber Geiger because I truly believe that she inflicted tremendous evil on my son.
Next to Palm Beach County, Florida, a former police officer convicted tonight in the shooting death of musician Corey Jones, whose car had broken down. He was calling for roadside assistance when Officer Newman Raja, in plain clothes and driving an unmarked van, showed up on the scene, shot and killed him. Tonight, Corey Jones's family now believes that the recording of that phone call, that roadside assistance call, made all the difference in the case. Here's ABC's Victor Akendo.
Tonight, fired Florida police officer Newman Raja put in handcuffs, convicted for killing 31-year-old Corey Jones.
This was about the truth, and the truth caught up with him.
The night Jones was killed back in 2015, his SUV had broken down on an exit ramp off I-95 in Palm Beach Gardens. He was returning home from a music performance.
This guy's trying to kill me, and I didn't want to die.
Raja was in those clothes working on an unrelated case nearby when he pulled up next to Jones.
The second I said police, he jumped back, and I clearly remember him drawing and pointing a gun at me.
In this video reenactment filmed hours after Jones's death, Raja claimed he identified himself as a cop, opening fire after Jones, who was legally licensed to carry a weapon, pulled out his gun. But Raja was unaware that Jones was on the phone with roadside assistance.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Prosecutors say that tape proved Raja never identified himself to Jones, who may have feared he was being robbed. The all-white jury agreed.
It's been 3.5 months since Ahmaud Arbery was chased and gunned down by 3 white men while out for a jog. And now new details about the moments leading up to his death are adding to the pain. According to the lead investigator, the man who shot Arbery stood over him as he lay dying and uttered a racial slur.
Mr. Bryan said that after the shooting took place, before police arrival, while Mr. Arbery was on the ground, that he heard Travis Michael make the statement.
The courtroom left in stunned silence at the probable cause hearing today for the father and son accused of killing Arbery, Gregory and Travis McMichael.
We'll proceed this morning.
Federal prosecutors introducing a possible new motive: racism.
This morning, the family of a Kentucky woman shot and killed by police is demanding answers, filing a wrongful death lawsuit against 3 officers. Breonna Taylor's family claiming officers blindly fired more than 20 shots into her apartment 2 months ago. On March 13th, 3 officers entered Taylor's apartment while she and her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, were sleeping. The officers were executing a search warrant as part of a drug investigation. Louisville police say the night of Taylor's death, the officers knocked several times and announced their presence before entering. And when they did, they were met by gunfire from Walker, a licensed gun owner. Defense attorneys for Walker say he fired in self-defense, claiming police did not announce themselves. They say Walker thought the officers were breaking in.
Walker shot one officer in the leg and has been charged with first-degree assault and attempted murder of a police officer. Taylor's family says she was on the front lines fighting the coronavirus at the time of her death. They were concerned about her getting sick, not shot.
Man, let him breathe, least, man. Let him breathe.
What is happening in America is that white nationalism ideology is running wild. And the reason why buildings are burning is because this city, this state, would prefer preserving that white nationalism and that white supremacist mindset over arresting, charging, and helping to convict 4 officers who killed a black man. And so we are in a state of emergency. Black people are dying in a state of emergency. The reason why buildings are burning are not just for our brother George Floyd. They're burning down because people here in Minnesota are saying to people in New York, to people in California, to people in Memphis, to people all across this nation, enough is enough. And we are not responsible for the mental illness that has been inflicted upon our people by the American government, institutions, and those people who are in positions of power. I don't give a damn if they burn down Target, because Target should be on the streets with us, calling for the justice that our people deserve. Where was AutoZone at the time when Philando Castile was shot in a car, which is what they actually represent? Where were they? So if you are not coming to the people's defense, then don't challenge us when young people and other people who are frustrated and instigated by the people you pay. You are paying instigators to be among our people out here, throwing rocks, breaking windows, and burning down buildings. And so young people are responding to that. They are enraged, and there's an easy way to stop it. Arrest the cops. Charge the cops. Charge all the cops. Not just some of them, not just here in Minneapolis. Charge them in every city across America where our people are being murdered. Do your job. Do what you say this country is supposed to be about, the land of the free for all. It has not been free for black people, and we are tired. Don't talk to us about looting. Y'all are the looters. America has looted black people. America looted the Native Americans when they first came here. So looting is what you do. We learned it from you. We learned violence from you. Woo! We learned violence from you. The violence was what we learned from you. So if you want us to do better, then damn it, you do better.
They attacked the victim. And then the criminal who attacked the victim accuses the victim of attacking him. Yes, sir. This is American justice. Yes, sir. That's right. This is American democracy. Yes, and those of you who are familiar with it, yes, know that in America, democracy is hypocrisy. Right.